So for 3 weeks this winter, I was fortunate enough to explore and really experience the wonderful country of Tunisia. My friend Henry and I got out of the airport and took in the air of this new country for the very first time, an experience which is pretty hard to articulate or put into words. After Henry and I got situated at where we would be staying, we got out into the capital and had a walk on this pretty dark, rainy, and peculiar evening. When you at first realize that you don't really speak the same language as the people there, it can feel a little intimidating. But you soon realizing that being in this place you don't quite understand, that's where, at least for me, I feel truly at peace. It's pretty incredible how such a short flight can take you to seemingly another world where the air is different, the people are different, the emotions you channel internally are different. The next morning, after grabbing a quick pastry, Henry and I went to the highly recommended Bardo Museum. This might also be a good time to mention who Henry is, my travel partner for the first half of this trip. He's a good, dear friend of mine, and we've been friends since secondary school. He's a good chap. Sometimes gets his own gets in his own head a little bit, but he's a good chap. He has a good heart. Anyway, at the museum, we were able to see these beautiful mosaics, which were genuinely so large. I mean, some of them were at least 20 meters long, and it's all the more impressive considering just how long ago they were made. The tiling and the general Islamic architecture was also fascinating, uh, considering I've never seen anything like it before. We then decided to try finding something to eat nearby. Um, we ordered, not really knowing what we were getting, but it was very good nonetheless. Very filling meal. After we took a taxi to Sidi Bou Said, which is a coastal town um, near Tunis, and we enjoyed the pleasant evening. The houses here are all white and blue.
You were looking to the blue like there was a door. Today's been cold, clear and blue. Now you look no more. I've been thinking of you almost every.
The next morning, Henry and I grabbed a coffee. We would talk for 10 to 15 minutes and then engage in a silence for a similar amount of time, and this kept on going. We observed how this Tunisian morning unfolded in front of us. It felt unforced and mentally cleansing. We proceeded to walk around the Medina and the souks, where mostly clothes, but everything is sold, mainly to locals. After sitting in one of the only churches in Tunis, we proceeded to get some lunch. Here is actually a video of me eating some couscous, best couscous I've ever had. next day, we roamed the old ruins of Carthage. It's incredible to think how humanity has progressed and changed over the years. Although Henry and I would engage in many conversations over this trip, I remember the one on this day being particularly notable. We discussed music, lyrics, history, humanity, trees, why we write, and what we write. We eventually made it to the sea. I leaned my back up against a rock, and we both sat there, writing, reading, being.
You were looking into the blue, like there was
Here are remains from the baths of Antonius. The precision and touch of the artist on these pieces of rock is such an incredible display of craftsmanship. We also saw this group of Italians, Sicilians, I think, on this kind of yoga excursion. The driving here is admittedly a little different to what we're used to. It's a little bit more chaotic. But once you kind of realize that everyone isn't really following the rules and there seems to be no kind of cohesion, the result is actually this weird notion of a cohesive system of vehicles and pedestrians, which is very cool. And I stress that, I'm only relaying these facts not with any criticism at all, but with a gratitude to be able to, see what I'm seeing and exploring these new places. After 5 nights in Tunis, we headed southeast to the calm and quiet seaside town called Madia. On the drive down, we started talking to Rashid. He offered us many kind words and invaluable advice. Thank you, Rashid. As we were exploring the new town, we ended up meeting 2 guys our age, Amin and Jihad. They showed us around, showed us the beauty of this town. We enjoyed a chapati together, a traditional Tunisian food. And there seemed to be this mutual understanding between the 4 of us that we were experiencing something special. This whole day was actually January 1st. Certainly lots to reflect on.
It's nice.
Pretty much all the transport in Tunisia from town to town is run by these things called louages, but I'll describe those in more detail later. Today we were taking a day trip to the Roman amphitheater called El Gem. I believe it's the second biggest one after the Colosseum, but I could be mistaken on that. Here, Henry and I split ways for a little bit. Each decided to explore this incredible building on our own. Henry took some great pictures. He is admittedly a lot better at taking pictures than me, considering both talent and skill. In the afternoon, we went to get a drink. Henry a coffee and me a tea. We had perhaps one of the best conversations of the entire trip. I must admit that Henry really makes me reflect, reconsider my own opinions on our world, human nature, and morality. few days have passed now, and we now find ourselves in Kairouan, the fourth most important city in the Islamic religion. We were shown around by a lovely man called Bilal, and although the communication was difficult at times, he was able to show us these wonderful designs. And as you can see, the precision and the detail of these carvings is both ominous and comforting, and it contrasts beautifully with the colorful tiles underneath. Outside the capital, there's still this chaotic element, but also a warmth. Everyone seems to recognize each other.
I have 1 million yes.
This was also the day we had perhaps the best meal of the entire trip. Bilal brought us to the fish shop where we bought some fresh fish, and then we crossed the street and it was cooked on this grill after being placed in this kind of marination sauce. Then when we arrived home and we were staying in the house of this wonderful man called Alex, we helped him prepare a couscous, which was then going to be served to us and the other people staying at this house. Languages being spoken would go from Italian to Arabic to French to English. That evening, I said goodbye to Henry because the next morning I was going to have to wake up early because I was going to go to the desert alone. It was about a 6-hour journey in these things called louages, which are the foundation for transport in Tunisia. They're basically these small buses that fit around 8 people, and they leave once they're full. So sometimes you can be the last one and you go right away, but if you're the first one there, you might have to wait for hours. But that's just how it works, and you get used to it very quickly. When you're traveling alone, there is admittedly more time for reflection. It's you and you alone that decides how your day will take shape. It's important to keep yourself busy, keep throwing yourself into the discomfort, the uncomfortable situations, because that, at least in my opinion, is where you can turn inward with such profound, in the moment, seemingly unprecedented clarity. Now you have these moments I've just described of such introspection, but equally, you have so many moments, in fact, probably the majority of your time, you're not really thinking of anything, which is, in a way, very peaceful. The surroundings and all you're taking in is enough. The next day, I was going to go visit Tamerza in the Mides Canyon, which is about an hour from where I was staying in Tozor. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get back because the bus driver said he's only coming back at one time, which was at 12. But I had plans on staying for longer than 12, so it was a bit of a mystery. But for now, I was just enjoying the spectacle of these wonderful canyons. Inside, it was so quiet. Your ears almost created a noise just because they were uncomfortable with how quiet it really was. I'd noticed that hitchhiking is pretty common practice here, so I gave it a try to get back home, and luckily enough, 20 minutes later, someone picked me up. The food you see here is a meal that a family prepared for me. I met their son the first night I arrived in Tozor, and I was lucky enough for him to invite me to his house. It was wonderful, traditional Tunisian food with wonderful people. For the last part of my trip, I was going to be staying in Tatooine, which is another town in the Tunisian desert. The main things to see here are the Cassars, which are these old fortified villages which were used for storage mainly, but also for defense. They're all dotted around, and I wasn't too sure how I was going to get from one village to the next one. But luckily enough, I met Beth and her friend from Tunisia who had rented a car and they were visiting all the villages, Cassars. So they offered me a lift and had a very special day together. I find something so captivating about this type of architecture, almost built into the mountains. The views are also incredible. Here, the line between human settlement and raw landscape is blurred significantly. These buildings listen to the land and try and work with the land as opposed to trying to conquer it, which is a refreshing change from our present world.
You can stay with me, baby. You can stay with me, and nobody would care. You can stay
I don't have
with me.
an awful lot of footage from my time in Tatooine because I tried not to use my phone too much, wander and roam without destination, speak to whoever comes in my path. After a long and pretty much final journey north again, I would spend the last 2 nights in Monastir. Amin, one of the friends I met before, lives here, and we spent the afternoon walking around his university, his town, and we even got to see the local football stadium. After 3 weeks in this country, this was now my last night. Tomorrow, I headed to the airport. I got dropped off around 5 kilometers from the airport, but in the most Tunisian way possible. Someone, luckily enough, gave me a ride. And mainly through writing while there, but also through this video I've just made, I've tried to document my experiences, emotions, and ideas I've had on this trip. It has given me another angle to look at things from, and for that, I'm very thankful. I'm determined to not let this journey I've lived become just a blur in my memory.